Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. It is Tuesday, June 11th, and we're certainly pleased to have everybody here tonight. We'll start our meeting by introducing you to your City Council.
Councilors Aguilar. Here. Anderson. Entenmann.
Here.
Erpenbach.
Here.
Jameson.
Here.
Karski.
Here.
Rolfing. Staggers.
Present.
Thank you very much. As we do with every City Council meeting in the City of Sioux Falls, we start with an invocation. We're very, very pleased to have Pastor Pat McClanahan of Common Ground Church here in Sioux Falls here tonight. We'd ask you to stand for the pastor's prayer, and if you'd remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance, we'd also appreciate that. Pastor, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you. You know, a couple weeks ago, I was reading in the book of Numbers and about Moses as he was leading the Israelites out into the wilderness. And he made this really cool plea, I thought. He said, God, if you don't go with me, don't send me out there. And I think it's kind of appropriate as this group of people leads the city, that if God doesn't go with you, I'm not sure I'd want to go. So we're going to ask him to come and hang out with you guys for a while tonight. So, Father God, we claim the promise you have given us that you never leave us nor forsake us. And so we trust that you are here in this room. And we trust that you will empower the people here, that you would provide them wisdom and guidance through the power of your Holy Spirit, that it would rain down, and that the decisions made, that you would have your influence on them, and that it would impact the lives of the people and the community and the businesses in the city of Sioux Falls. So, Lord, we trust that you are indeed with us, and we will go forward from here. In the glorious name of Jesus the Christ, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Put that on the display. Maybe Jim David can light it up for you. Jim?
Testing, yes. Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome. Thanks so much for being here. There's a very, very special day coming up here, and we certainly want to make you all aware of it. This is a town that is embracing diversity in such a major, major way, and there's a big, big celebration on Saturday that I think you'll certainly enjoy. With that, I do have a proclamation that I'd like to read. The proclamation reads, whereas the City of Sioux Falls recognizes that one of its greatest strengths is the diversity of its people. Whereas the city's foundation is built on acceptance and respect and on an understanding and appreciation that each individual is unique. Whereas the city's culture, traditions, experiences, ideas, and knowledge continue to grow as new residents move to Sioux Falls and call it home. Whereas the city strives to respect, embrace, and celebrate the rich dimension of diversity that is contained in each individual and in each culture and in each community and neighborhood. Whereas the city will continue to be an inclusive city that welcomes all who seek to work in Sioux Falls, live in Sioux Falls, or visit Sioux Falls. Now, therefore, I am Mike Huther. I am the proud mayor of this town called Sioux Falls, and I do hereby proclaim June 15th, 2013 as Diversity Day in the city of Sioux Falls, and I encourage all residents to celebrate our diverse community. Thank you. Colleen, would you mind coming forward as well? Daniel, come on forward. I'd like to introduce two folks who are kind of helping to lead the charge in our city in terms of embracing diversity. I'd like to introduce Colleen Moran, and then Colleen, if you'll introduce Daniel, and let the people of Sioux Falls know just what this young man is going to do for the upcoming months and why we just think it's important. Colleen?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor. I am Colleen Moran, and I am an assistant city attorney. The Human Relations Office is the office that I manage, and we work really hard to fight discrimination in our office, as well as to recognize all residents of Sioux Falls as being important and recognize the importance of diversity. As the proclamation says, it certainly is what has strengthened our community. And I have been fortunate enough to have Daniel Beggarpour with us this summer. He's interning with my office. He has a very interesting background of diversity, and he will probably share that with you. We are hoping to have much more outreach with Daniel, going out into the community, meeting with community members, meeting with residents, to make sure that they know that they can interact with city government. We want to reach out as much as we can. We want to get feedback from them. We want everybody to know that as citizens and residents of Sioux Falls, they are welcome, and certainly we welcome them in city government. Daniel is going to be a senior at Northern Arizona University, and I will tell you, we are blessed and lucky to have him here working with us this summer, and I'll let Daniel tell you a little bit about himself.
Well, hello, everyone. I am going to be a senior at Northern Arizona University. Before that, I lived in Turkey 9 years, and before that, California 9 years. My mom is originally from Tripp, South Dakota, and my father's from Iran. So I'm looking forward to representing diversity for this city and encouraging more diverse members to get into the city government. Yeah.
Well, Daniel, welcome to the team. It's good to have you here. And to go out there and let folks know how welcome they are, and go find us some leaders of diversity so we can really make good things happen. And Colleen, thank you for your efforts. We appreciate that. Again, on behalf of 158,800 people of our town, I'm going to hand this proclamation to Daniel, and go out there and get some work done, young man. You bet. Good luck. What a great way to start the meeting. I love this job. Thank you. I know that's out of order. Sorry, Councilor Entenmann. We'll now move on to tonight's consent agenda. Council, any changes or motions to tonight's consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor.
I move approval.
Thank you, Councilor. Appreciate it. Councilor Aguilar has made a motion to approve our consent agenda.
Second, Entenmann.
It's been seconded by Councilor Entenmann. If there is no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Entenmann.
Yes.
Urbanbach.
Yes.
Jameson.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Thank you. That has passed 7-0. Now move on to our regular agenda. Council, any changes?
Move to approve Karski. Second, Anderson.
Councilor Karski has made a motion to approve our regular agenda, seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. If there is no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Entenmann.
Yes.
Urbanbach.
Yes.
Jameson.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
That has passed 7-0. Again, welcome. It's a beautiful day in Sioux Falls. We do have some folks here, though, and we appreciate that. If there's anyone in the audience who wants to engage the council, please just come forward, introduce yourself, and let us know what you'd like to talk about. Anybody interested? Well, very good. We'll move on to tonight's regular agenda with item number 4.
A second reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, approving the release of a portion of a permanent utility easement located in Lot 2A of Judy Estates Addition, Lincoln County, South Dakota, to the City of Sioux Falls, Lincoln County, South Dakota.
Good evening, Chad Heavey with the Engineering Division of Public Works. This permanent utility easement is north and east of the intersection of 69th Street and Cliff Avenue. A portion of this easement does not contain any public or private utilities and is no longer needed. The property owner is in the process of developing this land and has requested this easement be released. And engineering recommends approval.
Chad, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wanted to speak to this item? Very good. Council, any comments at all?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Entenmann.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Entenmann. Councilor Jameson.
Chad, a question if I could. Was there ever, or does this prevent ever a road being put back there? I thought I'd heard through the 69th and Cliff discussion that there would be a road potentially back there somewhere. Am I?
There is going to be a, if you would, the intersection of North Star Lane and Lewis Avenue.
Okay.
There's going to be a road that comes down as type of a horseshoe, but it's going to be a private road. So there won't be a road.
Won't be a road out of the development?
No, what I've seen is that it'll come in and do a horseshoe and then tie back up to North Star Lane, and there'll be twin homes or townhouses kind of on each side of that road.
And there's no access problems that you see for that neighborhood getting in and out of that area?
No.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Well, Council, thank you. There's been a motion. It has been seconded. Had some discussion. If we could have a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Entenmann?
Yes.
Erfenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 5.
A first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by revising the Board of Health.
Good evening, Jill Franken, Sioux Falls Health Director. These items are related to Chapter 92 health ordinances and specifically sections related to our board structures. The first change is related to the composition of the Board of Health. The substantive change in this item will revise the composition of the Sioux Falls Board of Health to take it from a 15-member Board of Health to a 7-member Board of Health, with the intent that those board members will be representative of the community so as to effectively carry out the responsibilities of that board as defined in ordinance and be in keeping in a size that's relatable to other citizen boards that we have in the city. It also changes the current structure of the Board of Health so that it no longer will encompass the Falls Community Health Governing Board as a subset of the Board of Health as it is now structured. This proposed change will allow both entities, the Board of Health and the Falls Community Health Governing Board, to function as independent structures as they should be for purposes of their respective board responsibilities. The proposed change also removes specifics on what type of individuals are appointed to the board to assure the composition of the Board of Health is best able to carry out the board responsibilities related to current and emerging public health issues affecting our community at any given time that those citizen appointments are made. This proposed change also assures linkages to the city's other health-related boards. So on the Sioux Falls Board of Health, there will be a representative of the REMSA board or the Regional Emergency Management Services Authority. There will be a representative from that REMSA board on the Board of Health. And also there will be one representative from the Falls Community Health Governing Board on that Board of Health to keep that connection with all of those health-related boards. The next two items and changes are less substantive and are specific to Falls Community Health Governing Board, but needed in light of our federal requirements and activities of Falls Community Health. The second change identifies the Falls Community Health Governing Board approval of clinical program director. And to explain that, the role of myself as the public health director is also to serve as the program director. That's a language and terminology that's used for our federal grant requirements and our grant reporting. So I'm also the clinical program director for Falls Community Health. The proposed language states that when the public health director is recommended for appointment by the mayor and city council, that the mayor shall submit the proposed candidate to the governing board of Falls Community Health prior to submission to the city council. This is proposed ordinance aligns with Community Health Center regulations and requirements and also is consistent with other city ordinances. We looked at where that aligns well with other ordinances that are in place already. The third change, excuse me, the third change revises the maximum number of Falls Community Health Governing Board members representing the healthcare industry. That's also a requirement that's very specifically laid out in the federal regs as to how much representation we can have on our boards that are relative to the healthcare industry, and that's just for Falls Community Health Governing Board. This is just a minor change, but it also aligns with those federal requirements and states that no more than 2 of the non-patient Falls Community Health Center board members may be individuals who derive more than 10% of their annual income from the healthcare industry. That's the regulation in the federal regs and our key program requirements that we have to pay attention to. And there's that little change then in the number of those individuals that can serve on our governing board. The remaining proposed revisions that you'll see in there are merely housekeeping in nature. And lastly, we did run all of these changes through and have received approval from all 3 of our health-related boards, including our Falls Community Health Governing Board, Sioux Falls Board of Health, and the REMSA Board.
Jill, thank you. This is a first reading. Council, any questions or comments of Jill? Yes, Councilor Stangers.
Yeah, just one quick question, Jill. On the REMSA board, how many members do we have on the REMSA board?
5.
5.
Council, would anybody want to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, June 18th for item 5?
So move.
Second, Entenmann.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made that motion, seconded by Councilor Entenmann. If there is no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 6.
A first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, authorizing the sale of real estate belonging to the City of Sioux Falls and directing a warranty deed of conveyance be delivered to the purchaser thereof.
This item is related to a land sale for the Water Reclamation Division. This land is approximately 20 acres located on the corner of Sycamore and Benson Road. The exact address is 4000 East Benson Road. This land has been an asset of the Water Reclamation Division for a long period of time. When looking at this piece of land, the parcel just to the west of it was owned by the South Dakota Army National Guard, and they had been leasing this piece of ground for a long period of time for them to do field training exercises, that type of thing. In 2011, they approached the Water Reclamation Division about purchasing this piece of land. We took a look at our long-term needs, and there were no long-term needs for the Water Reclamation Division or uses for this piece of ground for the utility. We also contacted the Sioux Falls Development Foundation to take a look and have them provide some input as to whether there were any long-term needs for this from a development opportunity. Seeing none, we went back to the South Dakota Air National Guard with an estimate that we provided, or I'm sorry, Army National Guard with an estimate that we provided in 2011 of $355,000. Their process, the federal government process is, now that we've agreed to terms of sale and a price, we need to work through the federal government process for them to get allocation of funding. And part of that happens through the South Dakota legislature. During this last legislative session, they got approval and the funding necessary to do the purchase of this land. So now that's what we're working at as far as the surplus transfer of this land to the Army National Guard.
Trent, thank you. Would you mind just introducing yourself to the people?
I'm sorry, Trent Lubers, Office of Public Works, Utility Operations Administrator. I apologize.
Thanks, Trent. Councilor Stangers.
Yeah, I support this, but normally don't we, with at least private businesses, when we offer to sell land, there has to go out for a bid?
It would go out to an auction process if it wasn't an intergovernmental transfer. This being an intergovernmental transfer, that process wasn't necessarily required.
I move, Mr. Mayor, I move that the date for the second reading be set.
Second, Karski.
Thank you. Councilor Edmonds made a motion to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, June 18th for this item, and it was seconded by Councilor Karski. If there is no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 7.
A first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending certain provisions of Chapters 50, 51, and 53 relating to wastewater regionalization.
We went through, Trent Lubers again, Office of Public Works. We went through a presentation last Tuesday at the Council Informational, and I'll try to keep our comments brief and just give a general overview of what wastewater regionalization means to the city. This ordinance essentially allows the pathway or the gateway through city code for us to enter into agreements with potential regional customers in the city. Regionalization, this ordinance allows the let me start again. What regionalization does is it spreads the costs for wastewater, which is very expensive, across a broader range. And that broader range of investment into a wastewater system provides an economy of scale for our customers so that they don't have to pay as much for wastewater. That regional development of wastewater, it's very expensive. Outside communities have to take a look at what their wastewater costs as pending regulation comes, and the costs associated with that are quite expensive. The key components of this legislation or this change that you're making is it provides a base rate for wastewater regionalization. That base rate is a postage stamp approach, which means that we're going to treat the regional customers the way we would treat our existing customers in the city of Sioux Falls. And that means if you live next door to the wastewater treatment plant, you pay the same rate as you would if you lived on the southwest corner of town, the farthest away. Also part of that base rate, Sioux Falls considers itself a wastewater treatment customer, but we've built in a risk premium into our base rate. So what that means is Sioux Falls will pay a lower base rate than the outside customers. That risk premium or lower cost of the city of Sioux Falls for that regional base rate acknowledges the fact that Sioux Falls, as the owner of the system, bears some risk for wastewater services. And so we collect a risk premium from the outside communities for that base rate or that cost to provide them regional wastewater services. The next component of regional wastewater is what we call a system development charge. That system development charge is an individualized per unit of capacity cost. So it's the capital cost associated with providing capacity to an outside customer. And so what they would do is per equivalent residential unit, which is essentially a single family home, and that has a cost of capacity, and through a long iterative process, we developed a cost of $2,391 per unit of capacity. So when those residential units come onto the regional system, they would have to reimburse the regional system for that equivalent residential unit. And then the other takeaway from this process is it's completely voluntary. Is a community can take a look at the financials and they can make a decision based on the financials whether they come into the regional system and they pay those base rates and the system development charge, or they go wastewater, they choose to do wastewater on their own. And I'll give you a real world example. The city of Harrisburg is a real world example in our recent past. Harrisburg took a look at what it would cost for them to meet their growth demands in the wastewater services that they were going to need to provide. Harrisburg also has a challenge because the receiving stream that they dump into has a discharge point of Lake Alvin, and so the treatment requirements for Harrisburg were going to be significant. The cost to develop a treatment system and to build a treatment system for the city of Harrisburg were going to be in excess of $20 million. Some estimates in the study that they did were as high as $27 million. So the other option that they looked at is evaluating what it would cost to come to the city of Sioux Falls. To come to the city of Sioux Falls, what they needed to do was build a pump station and a force main to discharge into one of those regional components into the Sioux Falls system, and then it would get conveyed to the Sioux Falls wastewater treatment system. The cost of that project was around $10 million. Now, if you take a look at the system development charge or those unit capacity charges for Harrisburg to come in, it's going to be in the neighborhood of $3.7 to $4 million for them to come in. So if you look at the simple financials for Harrisburg, when they look at it, the cost to go their own is $20+ million, or to come to the city of Sioux Falls, it's $15 million. And so those are the options that these communities are looking at and evaluating. And so we provided a financial picture for them to take a look and evaluate whether they want to go into the wastewater business on their own and have those long-term costs, or whether they want to discharge to the regional system and share those costs across a broader range of customers. Regionalization is something that we're doing already in the city of Sioux Falls. We participate in a regional landfill. We participate in a regional library system. And we've also participated as our next source of water, our next big source of water, we've participated in a regional water system. And the reasons that we did that were to spread those costs over a larger group of customers, to get rid of that redundancy so that there's not redundant infrastructure out there. And that's really the idea of going with regionalization, is it lowers those costs and it provides a stable rate for those customers and for the region. And that's an economic development tool, and it's a tool that protects the environment, and it's one of those things that helps us as a region to grow together. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Trent, thank you. Council, interesting topic. Yes, Councilor Karski.
Thank you. First of all, Trent, I like this. It's, like you said, it's good for the community, good for Sioux Falls, good for our neighbors, our neighboring communities, and good for the environment. So I'm happy to see this. At the informational, you talked about, there's access points where communities could hook in. I imagine that we have something built in to deal with maybe higher periods of flow or peak flow times where they store their fluid before they pump it, et cetera. Is that what's going on, or how do we deal with that?
Sure, I can share that. First of all, the first question is, we essentially looked at, if you think about a ring around the city of Sioux Falls, we identified regional components in areas where the system would accept those potential connection points for outside communities, where the capacity was there, the system was large enough. So it's not the entire City of Sioux Falls system that's part of the regional system, it's just those components and the components related. It either conveys or it treats regional wastewater. To get to your point about credits, is we built in a credit system into that base rate of pay. So if you're a municipality that has an operating lagoon system, and we have a couple of customers that have that right now, where they can store wastewater and discharge it to us at off-peak times, or they can actually provide some level of treatment in the wastewater, what that affords the regional system is you don't have to build as big a pipe, because everything has a diurnal, or it has a peak in the middle of the day when that water comes into the system or into the pipe, and then in the overnight periods it's low. So if you can store that water and pump it overnight, it has value to the regional system and all the regional customers, because you don't have to build as big a pipe. And the same concept goes for treatment, because if you provide partial treatment through a lagoon system or whatever these communities have for a treatment system, that's an extra tank or an extra treatment system that does not have to be built at that regional wastewater treatment facility. And so because that has value for all the customers, there's a credit built into the base rate for those communities. And really what they need to take a look at when they evaluate that process is, are the credits for the volumetric rate that we discharge worth the land value or operating whatever treatment system that they have?
Councilor Intiman.
Yeah, Trent, a couple of questions here, if you don't mind. The regional customer rates are level, so they know what that regional customer rate is, correct?
Yes.
Okay. However, there is a system development charge that community, if they hook in, has to pay the city, and that amount was what, $2,200 per household?
It's $2,391 per equivalent residential unit, or essentially a single-family size water meter.
Okay, so then the city has to decide how they're going to reclaim that. If they've got the cash in their bank account to pay for that hookup, or are they going to have to charge an additional rate to their customer, correct?
You're absolutely right. It's up to the individual community how they want to recover that cost. They could do it as a pass-through to the customer that buys the home. They could build it into the rates that each community pays. And I think that there will be varying methods for the communities to do that essentially based on how you can spread it out. If you're a community that's larger and you have a larger customer base, perhaps you'd want to put it into the rates that every customer pays. But if you're a smaller community and you can't afford to make that decision, it may get passed through to the customer that buys the home.
And then the risk premium that you talked about, since we, the City of Sioux Falls, own the system, because of that, then we get a little bit of a preferential rate or the risk premium, because we're going to be the ones that are responsible for any upgrades or whatever to the system, correct?
That is correct. Sioux Falls still owns the system, and there's value to owning that system, and ultimately we're still making the investments into the system from those regional customers. They certainly pay in the capital, but that capital comes in as they add capacity. That capital doesn't come in as they tell us they need capacity, 10 years worth of capacity, and so they pay for it all at once. They don't prepay, and so that's the risk premium that's built in, because we're bearing the cost of borrowing that money or doing that capital for a period of time until that capacity comes in.
And that was the point I was trying to make. We wanted to assure our citizens of Sioux Falls that we've built a system, but there is premiums and other costs involved. So in effect, our rates in the City of Sioux Falls are actually going to be cheaper than those people or those citizens or those communities that decide to hook onto our system.
Right, and I can actually share you, we provided you with some information, but I can actually share you what the rates are in the city of Sioux Falls today, and that's just the rate that you pay at your home compared to the communities that we serve right now. The average residential rate for the city of Sioux Falls for wastewater is $24.99. For the city of Brandon, it's $29.31. For Harrisburg, it's $49.03. And then Render and Prairie Meadows sanitary districts, they're customer of ours right now, and they bill a little bit differently. They do a flat fee monthly, and their fees are $60 per month. So we have a very competitive rate. We have a lower rate regionally, and you know, again, some of that is the benefit of spreading the cost of that infrastructure over a larger group of people. But I believe we've also done a really good job of protecting the investment that our customers and citizens have made into the wastewater system, and making sure that we protect them and we get the best value for them, and also the best value long term to spread those costs out in that economy of scale over that broader customer base.
Great, thank you very much. Great job, well done.
Thank you.
Councilor, thank you. Councilor Staggers.
Yes, Trent. What if there's a catastrophic failure of the pipe that we own in Sioux Falls? Will we be responsible, the city of Sioux Falls, for all of it, or will we have some of that spread out to these other communities?
That's a great question, depending on whether it's identified as a regional asset or whether it's a city of Sioux Falls asset. If it's one of those assets, and I'll use some of the work that we've done in the last 3 years, that Sioux River South and that Central Main pipe that we've worked really hard over the last 3 years to replace, those are regional assets because they're going to convey wastewater for the entire regional system. But if it's a 14-inch pipe in the center of Sioux Falls that's never going to have the option to convey regional wastewater, the cost of that repair and a lot of those lift stations and that type of infrastructure in the city of Sioux Falls that's owned and part of the local system is the responsibility of the city of Sioux Falls to repair, and that would not be spread out.
What if we do have a situation where it's part of the regional system? How would we apportion the cost? Is there a formula already?
Well, there is a formula in that it's all the regional assets are the responsibility of the regional investors in the system. But more importantly is that system development charges, we carry a cash or an account of money there. And so if we would have a failure in a regional portion of the system, we have money in the bank in that account for that system development charge where we would be able to make a repair if it's a failure of a regional asset.
I guess I'm still, I'm glad that we do have that, but I guess I'm still a little concerned. You know, what if we need additional money? Are we going to say, Harrisburg, you have to pay this, or Brandon, you have to pay this? Or I guess I'm just not clear.
Trent, what if the repair, the Councilor Staggers is talking, what if the repair exceeds the amount within the reserve or whatever that account? How will you go get the money to pay for that?
I think that's a fair question. I think maybe the way to look at that is we would probably look at repairing that. If we needed to make a $10 million investment into the regional system, a new capacity investment, we would likely go to the debt market. The regional system would go to the debt market to get that money. And it's a fair way to look at how we would do an emergency repair is likely we would go to the debt market and we would spread that cost out to all the regional customers. And how that debt and the cost of that debt gets spread out is actually through the regional rates. So that would get calculated into the regional rates if we would need additional funding.
Thank you.
Good job. Council, this is a first reading. Would anybody like to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, June 18th on this particular item?
So move, Entenmann.
Second, Anderson.
Councilor Entenmann has made that motion, seconded by Councilor Anderson, Jr. If there is no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Entenmann?
Yes.
Urbanbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 8.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, providing supplemental appropriations to the Departments of Street for $7,288,000, Parks and Recreation $613,000, Fire $80,000, Engineering $48,000, and Police $9,000.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Tracy Turback with the Finance Office. As Denise just read, the supplemental appropriation ordinance tonight that we're discussing relates to the ice storm that occurred about 2 months ago. It was shortly thereafter dubbed Operation Timber Strike, and so we'll refer to it that way and continue to do so. The supplemental ordinance that's on first reading tonight is intended to be the first and the last supplement related to that storm. So we've incurred a significant amount of cost to this point. There's more work to be done and more costs to be incurred, but we feel like we've got a reasonably good handle on what the ultimate run out will be in terms of the cost when the last twig has been ground to pulp. So we don't expect to be back before you for another supplement beyond this proposed ordinance. Another key point I would like to make is that and I'll walk through those costs and kind of how we arrived at the amounts that were mentioned earlier. But another key point that I should mention is that the supplement relates strictly to the general fund, and the funding source for the supplement will be general fund reserve dollars. So I'll provide a brief kind of an overview or high-level recap of the costs that we've estimated that will be incurred throughout the entire event, and then walk you through how we've determined the amount that is required to be supplemented into the budget, because not all costs will result in a budget supplement. So the total estimated cost of the event we're estimating will be just slightly over $9 million, as you can see in the bottom line on this slide. And we've put those costs into some categories to give you a better feel for kind of where those costs were incurred and where that money is being spent. We did have a number of city personnel that worked directly on the event. City crews did some of the debris removal themselves. We had a number of staff in the Emergency Operations Center, a lot of part-time staff, and overtime was incurred as well. So that city personnel number accounts for those dollars. As you can tell, and as I'm sure you would expect based on the briefings that you've received in the past, the most significant area of cost would be for the independent contractors, and that includes everything from hauling the debris, grinding that's ongoing, the work done by some of the contracted arborists, the monitoring, the stump grinding, all of those types of things have been and will continue to be done by independent contractors, and so that is where the most significant dollars will be spent. The city also had some equipment engaged in the effort, some of our own city-owned equipment, where we incurred some repair costs, supplies, and of course fuel to operate that equipment, as well as some rental equipment that the city utilized as well. We do anticipate a fairly significant number to restore the sites that were used to store the debris until it can be ground and removed. The most significant cost will be the sites at the fairground that were used for storage. So that work has not yet been done, but we feel like that's a good estimate of what that will cost to restore those sites. The park facilities really were the only area of city government, city facilities that incurred direct damage that were really significant throughout the city, and that primarily was at Harmondon Park, some of the backstops and fencing that was damaged. And then there was also some netting at Elmwood Golf Course that was damaged that will be repaired as part of this supplement. As I said, we have feel like we have a reasonably good estimate, but these are estimates in large part for work that will be ongoing, particularly the grinding. If you've been out past the Chambers site, you can see there's still a mountain of branches there, and that presents some unpredictability in terms of how much it will cost. So we did add a contingency here of 5% based on the other amounts that you see on the slide. So that provides us our total estimated cost of the event, as I say, of just over $9 million. So working off that $9 million, as I mentioned a moment ago, not all of that will have to be supplemented into the budget. If we start with that $9 million, there are costs that are included in the $9 million that were planned to be expended anyway. Some of the full-time salary costs for city employees, for example, if they hadn't been working on this response to this event, they would have been doing something else. So those dollars were already in the budget, and there's no need to supplement the budget for those again. There are also a number of other departments that did expend some funds, but the amounts are fairly modest, and so those dollars can be absorbed into the existing budget without the need to supplement those departmental budgets. Those things came to just under $500,000. So those costs will be absorbed by the existing appropriations. And then there were other costs incurred by some of our other funds that are not appropriated. For example, our enterprise funds, the Light and Power, incurred some expenses to restore power and respond to the ice storm, as well as the landfill. Another of our enterprise funds that incurred a fairly significant amount of costs, but all those non-appropriated funds incurred just, again, about $477,000. Those are non-appropriated. They're not tax supported. They are supported with user fees, and so those will be absorbed by those funds and will not require a supplement. So when we remove those two items that total just under $1 million, you can see we get down to a supplement for the general fund of just over $8 million, and those the numbers that were read earlier total up to $8,038,000. That affects 5 departments within the general fund. Those 5 departments being streets, parks and rec, fire, engineering, and police. You can see the numbers here, and those are the same numbers that were read a moment ago and are included in the supplemental appropriation ordinance. Of course, this was primarily a street issue, and so the lion's share of the dollars that have been spent on the effort and will be spent are in the street department budget. And parks and rec, of course, the largest area there are some of those damages that will need to be repaired at Harmondon and Elmwood. The other 3 departments, those costs primarily represent overtime spent by city staff and in responding to the event. Again, the funding source for the supplement is will be as the ordinance indicates, available general fund fund balance. I might mention accompanying the ordinance, there is a funding memo. That's something that's required by the charter, and I think it really kind of gets to the heart of the purpose of the supplement. And that funding memo indicates that the funds supplemented here will be used to reimburse the unforeseen expenses for Operation Timber Strike in order for the following departments to continue providing the level of service intended in the 2013 budget. So that's really the purpose of the supplement, is to make those budgets whole so that they can finish out the rest of 2013 and continue with their plan of work for the remainder of the year without cutting back on the level of services as a result. So the funding source, as I mentioned, are the general fund reserves, and so I did want to address how that would impact our reserve funds so that you folks have a good understanding of that. In the first graph I'll show you should look very familiar to you. This is one we go through every year at budget time. This is a projection of future general fund reserves, and it's the bars reflect the amount of general fund reserves as a percentage of general fund expenditures. As you folks know, you some time ago established a policy target of 25%. So this graphic measures the projected future reserves against that policy target, and that 25% is represented by that yellow horizontal line on the graphic. Now the very first blue bar is the 2012 actual, so we know now what we didn't know last summer when the budget for 13 was established. We know what our year-end 2012 reserve levels are. So we have, this is identical to the chart you would have looked at last July, with one exception. We did update it to reflect the 2012 actual reserves. We ended the year a little bit better than what we had projected in mid-2012. That 36% actual reserve for 2012, or at the end of 2012, represents about $45 million in general fund reserves, or as the slide indicates, 36% of the expenditures for that year. Now, looking at, this is kind of what I've referred to as the before picture. This is before Operation Timber Strike and the ice storm. And if we look at the next slide, the blue bars are the same as the previous slide. The red bars show you what the kind of the after picture is of future general fund reserves. So if nothing else changes, the result of this budget supplement would put us in a position where we're projecting reserve levels indicated by the red bars. So to point out, for example, 2013, we had, after we've adjusted for the 2012 actual, where we actually started 2013, without Operation Timber Strike, we would have anticipated ending the year with a 33% reserve. Accounting for this $8 million supplement, we would now anticipate that we would end with a 25% reserve. And so as you can see with both the blue and the red, over the next several years, we are projecting that that reserve level would be drawn down for a variety of reasons, which we've talked about on a number of occasions. We use that excess reserve to smooth in additional operating costs for example, in 15, when we open a new fire station, we'll bring on 15 additional firefighters and additional operational costs for that station number 11. And this, the reserve levels above 25% allow us to do that without having to opt out on a property tax vote or cut back services somewhere else to accommodate that. So that, I think that gives you a fairly clear idea of the impact of Operation Timber Strike and this $8 million supplemental appropriation. So with that, I would be happy to try to answer any questions you folks have.
Tracy, thank you. This is a first reading, so Council will leave it in your hands. Any questions? Councilor Staggers?
Yes. Tracy, can you say something about the formal interaction between the City of Sioux Falls and FEMA? In other words, have we had close cooperation with them? If we were going to get any money from FEMA, would it be in the fall, or just exactly what?
There has been close contact with FEMA from the very beginning of the ice storm, and our intention would be to come back before the council next week at the informational meeting. I know there are a number of questions related to FEMA, the FEMA funding, the potential for that, what the process is, what the timeline is, and so we would hope to come back before you, and in fact we'll be on your agenda for on the June 18th informational meeting, and we can walk through that. I think it's important to understand that although you're not voting on this supplement tonight, the intention of the supplement really has nothing to do whether we accept or not accept FEMA funds. So it's simply a matter of putting those departments back in a position where they can continue their service levels, and the discussion on FEMA funding, I think, is really a separate matter, and which we intend to address next week.
If I could just also say something else about your chart there dealing with the over the next several years, you know, projected we're going to be below 25%, and below 25%. Also, I think it's important that people realize that, you know, our 25% reserve, which is great, and I'm glad we have that policy. It's a policy that many other cities have a policy of 15%. So we are doing quite well when it comes to wanting a very significant reserve. And people, I don't think, should be, you know, scared that if we get below 25%, that this is going to result in, you know, something terrible for the City of Sioux Falls. Because, like I said, many other cities, if they have a policy even about reserves, it's 15%.
Councilor Bach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Staggers is right that it's not a huge deal, but I also heard the collective sigh, maybe a gasp, when we looked at those red lines, because we put stock in that 25%. So my question then is, what's the budget growth expectation? I mean, that's the third line that's missing there, is that if you look at the blue line, that's what it would be if we didn't do this, and the red line is that was what it would be if we did it, assuming what for budget growth? Anything?
Yes. To make this forecast, we look at both the revenue side and the expenditure side and anticipate how those things will change over time, because we know the budget in 5 years is very likely to be significantly higher than it is today, as will our revenues as we continue to grow. So we do take that into account. and it's a fairly complex. We don't make just a blanket assumption of all revenues or all expenditures. We look at personnel costs, operational costs, what our sales taxes may do versus property taxes and those types of things. But it's very much taken into account that the budget will grow and our revenues will grow along with that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Then if I could, just one other, I would just kind of dovetail on what Councilor Staggers said and just throw this out hypothetically. Don't answer it, but think about why we have the 25% line. You know, what's our purpose for that? And let's consider that we maybe have boxed ourselves into something that maybe we're uncomfortable with at this time. Again, just hypothetical, but that's my comment. Thank you.
Councilor Antonin.
Just a question to Tracy. You talk about budget reserves, and in the big picture, does a community's budget reserve affect their ability to borrow money or the interest rates at which we do borrow money?
Absolutely. I think there are a number of things that a rating company will look at in rating the city's debt. Reserves are a very important part of that. Certainly the stronger your reserves are, the more credit you will get in terms of getting a bond rating. We currently have a good bond rating, a AA rating. I think I personally believe we're capable of a AAA rating. I know there are a number of communities, not unlike Sioux Falls, that can achieve a AAA rating. I think we've certainly have the financial capacity to earn that. Another important factor, it's not just about the numbers either. It's about strong leadership and strong financial management. And I think a rating agency will look quite negatively on a community that isn't looking out for its own best financial interests. And that's, I know that the discussion about foregoing federal funds, and I don't want to get into that too much because that's part of the point of coming back next week to discuss that, but that is certainly something that would catch the attention, I believe, of a bond rating agency if we are voluntarily foregoing an opportunity to replenish our reserves when they have been depleted by an incident like this.
Thank you.
Councilor Karski.
Thank you. Two questions, if I may, Tracy. The 15% requirement, is that set by state statute, or is that a number that, I've seen that on our charts in the past with the 15% across, and I thought I had asked the question before where that 15% requirement did come from. Is that a state requirement for budgeting?
No, there's no state statute that requires any particular level of reserve for municipalities.
Okay. And then the second question, the chart that you had illustrated with the down years, that assumes increases every year in our revenues, correct?
Yes.
And 3 of the last 10 years, we've actually had negative years. Is that also correct?
No, I don't believe we've had that many. In terms of sales taxes, we've had 1 year where sales taxes went backwards.
1 year? Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Tracy, thank you for the report here and giving us some of the costs for the weather event that we had. So now between the $8,083,000 and the $9,007,000, is one of these numbers the numbers we're going to be submitting to FEMA?
Well, it's the correct answer is probably neither of those numbers. It will be somewhere in between. Some of the costs that will be supplemented are certainly expected to be FEMA eligible, and we would anticipate receiving FEMA reimbursement. Some of the costs that are not being supplemented, but I don't expect that all 9,007,000, whatever the number is, will all be FEMA eligible. There will be some that simply doesn't qualify for FEMA participation.
And when will you have that information?
Well, that can be a very slow, very drawn-out process. And it's really, it depends on how long it takes FEMA, well, one, for us to finish the work that needs to be done, and then for FEMA to complete their review process. And that's quite a laborious process for FEMA. There are local people here that will review costs, and then it will go through a number of other reviews beyond that before we ultimately get the answer. It wouldn't surprise me at all if it's into 2014 sometime before we really know what reimbursement we would receive. Thank you.
Councilor Jameson.
Thank you. Tracy, the percentages, you know, Councilor Erpenbach made the comments kind of stuck in my head now. The percentages is a number, but what would be beneficial for me if we could in the next update or even further information is the dollar amount. Mm-hmm. We've got the 25% stuck in our head as the amount, but you know, could you tie in some dollars into these percentages? So this 36% that's over our budget, just how much money is that? And if you could.
Sure. That 36% at the end of 2012 represents about $45 million.
How about 2013? Would can you do the math that fast, or maybe just could you on the next graph, next reading, provide those numbers?
Yeah, we certainly can.
Just to help us keep into perspective how much money we're talking about.
I think it's important to understand that one of the reasons that communities, that Sioux Falls and many other communities use a percentage is because the budget does grow over time. If you set your policy and a target at a dollar amount, over time it becomes less and less, it leaves you in a position less able to deal with the reasons you know, that you have, the kind of adversity that you might encounter and the reason you have a reserve.
Yes, right on the, I think it just helped us go down the line to see how this dips. The other thing I wanted to add just as well as the comment as well for discussion is this is exactly why we have this money. Mm-hmm. Is for events just like that it occurred, and this is absolutely what we need to do is be prepared for things just like this. And so, you know, this, I won't argue or get into the issues of did we spend the money appropriately and do all those kinds of things, but absolutely this is what we need to do.
Councilor Aguilar.
Tracy, we're in on the beginning of the budget process for 2014. How will this affect that budget process?
The anticipation is, and again, I don't want to get into too much of the discussion about the FEMA funding, but we haven't anticipated that those dollars won't be forthcoming. So we certainly expect that the FEMA dollars and the state dollars that will come with those will be revenues, whether that's this year or next year. They will certainly be received at some point to replenish our reserves, or at least a good share of what that $8 million that we're supplementing into the budget.
Thank you.
Tracy, maybe just to continue on with the Councilor Aguilar's question, any idea how you'll present some of those scenarios during the budget process so that the council can plan accordingly?
Well, our expectation is that we will make a judgment about what we, make our best estimate as to what we expect to happen. I think we can arrive at a pretty reasonable estimate. Going back to Councilor Anderson's question about out of that $9 million, how much of that is really eligible for FEMA reimbursement, and it will be a large majority of it. There will be very relatively small portion of that I expect that would be ineligible. So based on that, I think we can develop a very fair estimate of the amount of revenue that we would anticipate recovering to replenish our reserves, and that would be my intention, to prepare the budget on that basis.
Councilor Staggers.
Yeah, I guess according to the city charter, the city council is supposed to make policy, and here is one good area where we should be making policy, whether to accept FEMA money or not to accept FEMA money. Has the administration taken into account this issue of the city council making the policy?
I would prefer that we put that discussion off till next week. I think we're getting more into away from the purpose of the supplement and into the discussion that really I think would be better held at the informational next week.
Tracy, maybe just to help Councilor Staggers understand the motion at hand and why the timing is important, that we focus on the motion at hand. Tracy and Councilor Entenmann, I hope you understand. Why is it so important that you talk to the council today about this? Why didn't you just bring this 2 months from now when you had an even greater grasp on the numbers?
Okay, that's a good point. Of course, we didn't bring it right away because we had no clear idea, no good solid basis to make an estimate on what kind of a supplement would be needed. And we can't really wait much longer because, as you could see in the presentation, over $7 million has been expended already from the street department budget. And if we go too much further into the year, the street department budget in effect will be exhausted and they won't have the legal appropriations to continue providing the types of services we expect from the street department.
Thank you. Councilor Entman.
You know, this is one of those cases, I think, that I kind of look at, you know, in a business, you look at buying insurance, right? And the reason you do it is to ensure that in case, unfortunately, you have to put a claim or something drastic happens, you've got the ability or an income stream to take care of that emergency. In this case, it's a case of all of our taxpayers paying taxes to the federal government. And this is, in a way, it's an allowable opportunity for us because of what the Fed provides us through FEMA to reclaim some of these dollars. And that's kind of what we're doing here, I think. And we owe it to our citizens, like Councilman Jameson said, to take a look at this. This is exactly why we have reserves. And this, the best case scenario is if we didn't have to use those reserves or if we didn't have to claim on our insurance policies. But that's why you have those. And I think this is a prime example why it's good. I look forward to the presentation next week.
Council, thank you again. Just as the facilitator and moderator of this, the council and these meetings, again, I think what Tracy's looking for today is whether you believe that to keep the city government moving, you would want to appropriate dollars such as for streets at this time. Councilor Anderson Jr.
Move to set the second reading for Tuesday, June 18th.
Second, Entman.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, June 18th for this item, and it was seconded by Councilor Entman. Certainly understand there could be more discussion. Any further discussion? Thank you, Council. Very good discussion. A roll call vote, please.
Councilors Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Entman?
Yes.
Erfenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
And then it's passed 7-0. Item 9.
A resolution approving the special assessment roll for construction of sidewalk on North Cliff Avenue from East Benson Road to East 60th Street North.
Good evening, Chad Heavey with the Engineering Division. In 2012, the city and the state of South Dakota reconstructed North Cliff Avenue from Benson Road north to 60th Street North. One of the objectives of the project was to address the accessibility issues due to the lack of sidewalks. Tonight's resolution will assess 49 properties, $192,738.53 for costs associated with the sidewalk installation in accordance with state law and city ordinance. The assessments range from $369.77 to $12,325.50. The property owners were notified of tonight's hearing by mail, and we did receive one letter of opposition to the assessment. Thank you.
Chad, thank you. Is there anyone who wanted to speak to this item? Council? Councilor Jameson?
Chad, a letter of opposition is deemed what? I mean, do they have any standing? Is it just that they object, but our city policy is such that we assess them? So
the letter was from the property owner's attorney, just saying consider this a formal objection to the proposed assessment. The basis is that the individual property receives little or no benefit from this sidewalk improvement.
But our policy is such that we've determined that it is, and we're assessing them, and they're challenging essentially the concept of what we've already determined is what our practices are, right?
Correct. State law says that the City Council deems it necessary to construct, repair sidewalk. It lays out the processes that we follow. And so in the end of 2011, the City Council approved the resolution of necessity, which puts them on notice that our intention is to construct the sidewalk and then assess it.
Very good. Thank you.
Councilor Karski.
Chad, is there a history for the city to assessing properties like this? We've been doing this 10 years, 20 years?
Yes, we've been doing it for quite a while, and I will say that the first item before the first Sioux Falls City Council, and I don't know the date, but was for the installation and assessment of a wooden sidewalk.
Wooden sidewalks?
Yeah, I think, Mike Cooper brought it to my attention. I'm not saying he was around when that happened, but it was in the late 1890s, so yes, it's been going on for many, many, many years.
Okay, thank you.
Chad, when you said wooden sidewalk, Beth from the Argus Leader raised her head immediately thinking, where am I? Yes. That was the very first city council meeting, Beth. Intriguing. Councilor Karski, thank you. Councilor Staggers.
Yes, Chad, these are going to be city sidewalks on city property, the city right-of-way. So how much money are private businesses, private property owners paying for the city sidewalks total? I know there's one that's going to be paying $12,300, but the total cost?
The total assessment tonight, like I previously stated, is just under $193,000.
That the city is getting from private business instead of paying for it themselves?
We have paid for it and are assessing those costs to the adjoining property.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to repeat myself too much, but these are city-owned sidewalks that private businesses or owners are paying for. So, I mean, are we sending out thank you letters for them for paying for this?
If I may, I will. I'll just say that one of the most important parts of my job is to make sure that the engineering division conducts city business in accordance with state law and the city ordinances that are on the book. And so this is what I'm following, and I'll continue until things change.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Just a comment. This is nothing new. Last year, we made assessments on properties throughout the city. I do remember even East 10th Street, where we've had people out in the street in wheelchairs, in traffic. Sidewalks are an essential part of this community. When we have traffic and foot traffic in areas that we've improved, North Cliff, we have spent millions of dollars improving that. We see a huge dramatic increase of retail and commercial along that street now. It needs to have sidewalks so that they have a safe place to maneuver.
Councilor Entman.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the resolution.
Second, Erpenbach.
Councilor Entman's made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. Any further discussion? Councilor Staggers.
Yeah, I'm going to be voting against this, and the reason is because, once again, these are city-owned sidewalks, and you're having private property owners paying for this. Yeah, the city should pay for this themselves, but we're foisting it on to these private property owners.
Councilor, that is the fourth time you mentioned that, and you did that probably within 2 minutes of discussion. So I think the people of Sioux Falls heard you loud and clear the first time. And very good. Good job, though.
If I can also say one other thing.
Yes, sir, Councilor Staggers.
Yeah, Chad and I, we always have fun talking about this issue of assessment. So this has been going on for years, literally.
And I think most of the people of Sioux Falls know where you stand on it. Thank you. A roll call vote, please.
Councilors Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Entman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Staggers?
No.
That is passed 6-1. Item 10.
A resolution vacating the public right-of-way on West 3rd Street from North Main Avenue to North Phillips Avenue.
This portion of 3rd Street contains utilities, and the west half is paved. The petition was signed by all of the adjacent landowners in compliance with state law. If the right-of-way is vacated, a partial utility easement will be maintained. The vacated right-of-way will be used for redevelopment, which is the Phillips Avenue lofts, and engineering recommends approval.
Chad, thank you. Is there anyone who wanted to speak to this item? Council, any comments? Councilor Anderson Jr.
Just one question, Chad. You said it's all going to the development, or is this being split to the north property owners too?
Well, yeah, the development does not get all of it. Typically, it's up to the county of how that is divided. But I would say typically, if there's 80 feet of right-of-way, the 40 north half would go to those two north properties, and then vice versa on the south side.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Councilor.
Move we approve the resolution.
Thank you, Councilor.
Anderson. Second, Karski.
Councilor Anderson, or Councilor Entenmann has made a motion to approve. It was then seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. If there is no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Intiman?
Yes.
Urbanbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 11.
A resolution of the City of Sioux Falls approving diagonal parking on Phillips Avenue.
City Ordinance Chapter 77 requires the City Council approve all diagonal parking within the city. Tonight's resolution addresses the installation of 23 diagonal parking stalls on the west side of Phillips Avenue between, or in front of, which will be the Phillips Avenue lofts between 3rd Street and 4th Street. And I went to get you a picture here of, I keep talking about the lofts, and here's a rendering of that, and you can see the diagonal parking. The construction of these parking stalls will be completed by the developer. The plans are in compliance with engineering design standards, and engineering recommends approval.
Thanks, Chad. Is there anyone who wanted to speak to this item? Councilor Entenmann.
Yeah, Chad, just one question. Basically, the land for this parking, this diagonal parking, is provided by the developer. Is that correct? It really isn't taking out any of the right. Those streets are pretty narrow in there. That's why I'm asking.
They are correct, but I will say the parking will be in the existing right-of-way.
Right.
So what they'll be doing is just pushing the curb back to the west and creating those spots.
Great.
And if I could, just a couple things here. You're probably used to the diagonal parking between 9th and 11th on Phillips. This will be a much better situation, particularly with cars backing into traffic. And that's part of the reason why this comes to you, is because we're backing cars into traffic. This is actually wider than that other stretch of Phillips, and then we do have a median here. And then the angle of parking is less. It's at 45 degrees versus 60. So it's not such it's a more gradual backing out, and you can see much better whether you're backing out or driving on Phillips Avenue.
Councilor Anderson Jr.
Chad, this is going to be a parking lot for the apartment building, right? Or parking spaces?
These are parking spaces in front, but they are not part of the required number of stalls for this building.
And they're going to be part of the street?
Right. They're going to be diagonal parking just as other parking on Phillips Avenue is.
It's public parking.
Councilor Staggers?
Yeah, so Chad, just to clarify on the snow removal, the city will be responsible for cleaning those parking lots, is that true, or?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Councilor Anderson, they are, this is public parking in the public right-of-way.
Chad, will there be, are there, Councilor Jamison, will you ask a question that I want to ask?
Because I asked the question earlier today, so.
I can read the mayor's mind. It's coming to me again. The question was about meters.
Yeah.
Would there be meters on those spots?
I'm not gonna, I don't have the answer for you, but I would assume that they either will be metered or not. I mean, I think we will have the ability to meter them, but I would defer to Darren Smith.
I don't know that that's a big issue for me, but I know this is under change, and there's the growth that they're trying to get done there to to allow it to really work. And I would be as flexible as I can to help make it happen. So if this is what the developer needs and help to make it work, I'm all for that.
And we did develop engineering design standards specifically for angled parking, and they do meet those. So.
Wait, I got one more question from the
Yes,
mayor.
Councilor Jameson.
The mayor is saying no. Move to approve.
Thank you, Councilor Jameson. Good job. You did read my mind. Good job.
Second, Erpenbach.
Councilor Jameson's made a motion to approve. Councilor Erpenbach has seconded that. Councilor Erpenbach.
Just, my question is why? If it doesn't meet their requirements for what they have to have for the amount of space they're building, why do we have to why can't it just be parallel parking like other places? Am I missing something? Am I that dense tonight?
Well, first of all, you get more parking
Okay.
with diagonal parking. I think that's a big issue here, and I think it's the feel for of the downtown and trying to have people parking right in front of the shop they want to go into.
Okay, all right. I'm okay with it. I just want to make sure I understand it.
Councilor Karski.
And that's my understanding from what you just said, Chad. These are the Phillips Avenue lofts, but the main floor is going to be retail, correct? Or not?
There's going to be some retail,
Okay.
and then some of the lower level will be residential, with the goal being at some point those residential spots on the lower floor will be converted to office or commercial when the demand is there. And I picked all this up from Craig Lloyd at the Planning Commission meeting. So that I think what the goal is for, and it has to do with financing this project. So.
Well, very good discussion. If we could have a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Intiman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Council, any new business? Very good. It's been a very good meeting. I would take a motion to adjourn.
So move. Second.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to adjourn this meeting. It was seconded by Councilor Intiman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is adjourned, and it was a very productive one. Make it a great night, Sioux Falls.